Hi, sisters. Welcome to our Women in Wisdom series, Increasing Your Finance Intelligence. I'm Madison Smith. I'm the Associate Director for Education and Leadership Initiatives on staff, and I have the great pleasure of working with our Women in Wisdom program, which includes the platform, some in-person events, as well as this, our Women in Wisdom series, where we have alumna come in and share their wisdom. So we are so excited to have Nycole Freer with us. She's going to be sharing some of her wisdom related to personal finances and help answer some of your questions. So without further ado, I'll let her take it away and get started. So thank you again for being here, Nycole.
Thank you, Madison. I appreciate it. Actually, it looks like I'm a little delayed, so I'm going to turn off my recording. I don't need to record. Sorry about that. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for coming. And just a little bit about myself. This is my family. This is my husband and my little daughter. This is about 6 months ago. So she's 2 now. So she's getting bigger day by day. And just a little bit about me. I am a certified financial planner. I'm also a behavioral financial advisor. And I graduated from Cal State Fullerton with my degree in personal finance. Obviously, an Alpha Chi alumni. So I graduated in 2012, if there's anyone on here from that year or from that school. And I have 11 years of experience in the industry. So right when I graduated, I interned, and this is what I've been doing ever since. I absolutely love finance. So topics that we're going to cover today are behavioral finance, investing, debt education, and budgeting. I know some of the questions came in regards to retirement. So at the end of this, Madison is going to send out an email with most of the questions that were submitted beforehand, and they will answer all your questions that you guys have submitted. Alrighty, so getting into the topic of behavioral finance. So this is what we call the alignment model. So what you value most for your life. And there is a link that you guys could go to determine your personal values. If you Google think to perform values exercise, you'll be able to do your own values exercise. And in the end, you'll be able to come up with 5 top values for yourself or your family. In another slide, I'll share with you what my top 5 values are. So basically, if you're knowing what your values are, knowing what your financial goals are, your behavior should follow. And that's just kind of how we are able to change our behavior with our money. So for example, these are my values: faith, family, education, adventure, and recognition. Here is the link if you guys want to go to it, the thinktoperform.com/values. And you guys can take your own values quiz. So money is valuable when we use it to fund the things that matter most to us. And like I said, I just think that that's just great, so that we know what our values are moving forward. So like when we make a big decision on like a big financial purchase, is it within our values? So, I kind of questioned, since I just launched my own financial firm about 4 months ago almost. And I left. So I worked at JP Morgan for the last 7 years, and obviously I've been in the industry before that. But, since I took a huge pay cut to start this, I kind of questioned, should I take my daughter out of school? I mean, it's like a daycare, preschool kind of thing, but I'm like, you know what? But my values are education, and I really want to try to keep her there. So like I said, when you're making a big financial decision, does it fit within your values? So this is what we call the smart money philosophy. And this is kind of like how we do financial planning. We start with the worst case scenario, and we move forward into the best case scenario. So in the worst case scenario, you have worst case scenario is untimely death, unfortunately. So we focus on getting someone life insurance. If you have children or anyone that depends on your income, you should have life insurance. Just kind of 8 to 12 times your income is really what you should have. And everyone's situation is different. So you should work with a professional to determine like how much you should really get. And also, if you have any sort of assets, you should have a will written down like, hey, I want my, if you have like if something very expensive, like, hey, I want my engagement ring or my wedding ring to go to so-and-so, like put that into a will. If you have a home, that should be in a trust. So above and beyond the will would be a legal document called a trust. And then also you should have guardianship for your children. So if you guys have kids, making sure that you guys have it written down who's going to take care of your kids if you were to pass away. And why that's important is because you really don't want the government deciding who's going to take care of your kids for you. All right, so moving from the worst case scenario to a little bit better, but not the best scenario, is being alive and not healthy and not working. So basically, this is if you were to become sick or disabled and you couldn't work, you should have disability insurance. 1 in 4 people become disabled in their lifetime, unfortunately. So we never know when that could happen. We can get into a car accident, for example. My stepbrother actually got into a really bad motorcycle accident and is currently disabled, and he didn't have disability insurance. So yes, the federal government, if you've paid into Social Security, will give you disability, but it's not a lot of money. So disability insurance covers about 60 to 70% of your current take-home pay. And that also matters if you're paying the premium with after-tax dollars. So if you guys were to get disability insurance, make sure you pay the premium with after-tax dollars, not pre-tax. If you guys have group disability insurance with your employer, I believe it's already after-tax dollars, but you can just confirm with that. And then one other thing is long-term care insurance. I think I can't see you guys, unfortunately, but if you're mostly young, then this kind of doesn't really speak to you right this moment. But if you have any parents or if there's any older individuals on the call, long-term care insurance is very important. 2 out of 3 people will need long-term care insurance. So long-term care insurance will help you if you can't bathe yourself, put your clothes on, feed yourself. Think of someone you might know that has maybe Alzheimer's or dementia. Like these people need long-term care, and it is very, very expensive if you don't have the insurance. And the flip side to that is if you don't have any money, then the government will take care of you through Medicare, but it's really not an ideal situation, especially if you have someone that has money, because they will blow through their money so fast if they don't have long-term care insurance. So if they have the assets to pay for it, highly recommend it. Also having an emergency fund. So if you are single, you should have 6 months of an emergency fund set aside. So that is your expenses. So if you were to lose your job, how much money do you need for the next 6 months to take care of yourself until you found another job? If you're married, I recommend you only need 3 months, because hopefully you're both not out of work at that same exact time. And then if you have unstable income, I'm thinking of mortgage lenders, especially right now with how, some of them aren't making a ton of money. So have an emergency fund between 9 and 12 months of expenses would be really important. And then finally, the alive, healthy, and working would be, we can do the fun stuff. So this is investing in the stock market, investing in real estate, focusing on interest-bearing investments such as CDs or bonds or money market, things like that. So we can start to play around. So, alrighty, so moving right along, this is the neuroscience of financial decision making. So So your habit center actually doesn't, so any habits that you have already created doesn't take you any time to think about it. It's already created as a habit. So we really want to get our finances in such great order, making such great decisions that it becomes such a habit that like we don't really have to think about it. So moving from the habit center, which is 0 seconds to think about, our emotional brain gets triggered faster than our rational brain. So the emotional center gets triggered at milliseconds, 0.012 seconds, our emotional brain gets triggered. So what does that mean? If we become emotional about something, anything, we get into a fight with our boyfriend or husband or have a conflict, our rational brain doesn't get triggered. So we're not even thinking very clearly, especially like when we're responding. And this goes the same thing with finances. Like if we lose money or we overspent or we don't have enough money coming in, our emotional brain is getting triggered first. And so rationally, we're not thinking clearly. So I just want you guys to be aware of that so that when you are getting triggered emotionally, you can take a step back, and we'll talk about it further, but what we call the freeze game. And yeah, so then your rational brain, it takes 40 milliseconds, so 0.04 seconds for your rational brain to get triggered. Alrighty, and then decision making. So I really like this chart. I tell anyone, if you're going to make a decision, you need to be in this category right here, in a positive low state. So that is connected, challenged, inspired, and confident. So when we're in any of these other areas, such as excited, elated, exuberant, ecstatic, we don't want to be making any decisions in this frame of mind. And same with anything on the negative, high or low side. So this is anger, fear, anxiety, frustration, sadness, depression, hopelessness, exhaustion, and burnout. Like we don't want to be making any decisions in any of these 3 categories. So only when we're like, steady, we feel connected is when you guys want to be making big decisions. And that could be for anything. So think of financials, buying a car, taking a job, like just maybe give it some time, maybe give it like a night to make a big decision. Okay, so this is how we can rewire our brain. So using this method, the 4 R's. So first you're going to recognize, reflect, reframe, and then respond to rewire our brain in regards to, I mean, you could do this for anything. It doesn't have to be just for finance. It could be for any decision making. So when we're recognizing, we want to see where our body is at. So this is what we call the components of self-awareness. And this is what we call the freeze game that I was just talking about. So the freeze game would be, what am I thinking right now? What am I saying to myself inside my head? What am I thinking about? Am I thinking about a problem at work, a relationship issue, the weather? So just freezing and thinking like, okay, what am I thinking about right now? And then number 2 is, what am I feeling? So emotions are words, not sentences. So in this next slide, these are feeling words. You can actually pull this up from howwelove.com. These are feeling words. So you can ask your spouse, you could do this on your own, saying like, hey, these are my 3 things that I'm feeling right now. And, even if it's like financial, you can, come up with a few of these, like I'm feeling like energetic, I don't know, affectionate and cheerful right now, whatever it is. And when you can name an emotion, you could change the behavior. And this goes also for negative ones. There's negative ones in here. And usually that's where we think of all of our emotions. So anyways, going back, so the freeze game was, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? And then the third is, what am I doing and what is happening to me physically right now? So you guys could do this right now, wherever you are. Am I sitting or standing? Am I smiling or frowning? What's the look on my face? Is my heart racing or am I calm? Is my breathing pattern normal or accelerated? Am I tense or relaxed? Like Are your shoulders relaxed? Like, how are you feeling right now? And yeah, so by being able to recognize these things, we can then change our brain and our behavior moving forward. Also, another thing to be aware of is our mental biases. I feel like mental biases have been talked about a lot recently in the news, at least from my perspective. So being aware of your biases, like overconfidence, for example, like me leaving my job, I could have overconfidence in the fact that like I'm going to kill it in my business. I'm going to do so well. And hey, I imagined having X amount of dollars within the first 3 months of my business. Well, that didn't happen. So I had overconfidence. I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. No problem. Also excessive optimism. This is like, for an example, would be like marriage. 50% of marriages end in divorce. Unfortunately, that's just statistics. So if you go into a marriage thinking like, oh, this is going to be so great, everything. And then unfortunately, sometimes it does end in that. I don't wish that upon anybody. My mom has been divorced 3 times. So I don't ever wish it on anyone, but just want you guys to be aware of these different mental biases that are out there. And then there's confirmation bias, availability bias, and also familiarity bias. So familiarity bias is like, for example, a real estate agent you may already know and you want to work with them. Well, they may not actually be the best real estate agent for you, especially right now in this market that's so competitive. But anyways, these are just biases, and like just to be aware of them and kind of like question like, hey, if what I'm thinking, is it even true? Or yeah, so just being aware of that. All right, and then this is the second part is reflecting. And reflecting on my values doesn't guarantee that I'll never make stupid decisions, but it does increase the likelihood that I'll make decisions that are aligned with the values rather than driven by emotion. So this is an exercise that you guys can do. I think I put it in here. Here it is. Drawing a picture of your big picture. So you could do this, draw a circle, put these 5 different things in there. So finances, family, goals, health, environment, and in each section, jot down a positive and a negative fact that applies to your life. And by doing this, this activity will help you create a visual map of your big picture. Once you have completed your big picture, you can display it for a quick reminder of what to reflect on when you are reacting to a financial situation. So you guys can always just refer back to this when you are reacting to a financial situation. And then I wanted to go back to this is mindful breathing. So by taking a few deep breaths, taking some time, that actually will help your physical body calm down. So that's how we can also rewire our brain. Third part is reframing. So we can now reframe our mind. So positive frame is exactly what we need to make smart, thoughtful financial decisions. So yeah, reframing our mind, knowing what our emotions are, and then like looking forward will help us moving forward. And then we respond in a calm and productive emotional state that supports objective, unbiased thought. Alrighty, so we are going to move into investing now. So savings and investing behavior. So savings and investing behavior accounts for 87% of portfolio growth. 87% of portfolio growth, period. The other, sorry guys, that should be just a period there. Sometimes I talk into my, when I'm creating these PowerPoints. So saving and investing behavior accounts for 87% of portfolio growth. The other 13% of the portfolio growth is market timing, asset allocation, and investment selection. So what does this mean? Investments work, investors don't. So if you guys look right here in the 1-year number, you'll notice that the S&P 500 was up. These numbers are from 2022 or 2021. So this is numbers from back then. So anyways, over a 1-year time frame, the S&P 500, this is the top 500 companies in the US, was up 28.71% in 1 year. If you notice, the investor was only up 18.39%. And why is that? because investors get in usually when the market's already going up. They now have confidence that the market's going to continue to go up, and then they get in. Then the market comes down and they're like, oh no, they freak out, their emotional brain gets triggered, let's sell out. So by you guys now being aware of the fact that your emotional brain gets triggered before your rational brain, that I want you guys to stay in the market as long as you can, as long as you have all your ducks lined up. So that was having your emergency fund and your insurance in place so that you can do fun things like this and you're not pulling money out of the market at the worst time. So, all right, so I also like this slide, asset class returns. So bunch of different colors, it looks like a quilt. And basically just what this is showing is within each year. So this is going back to 2008 all the way to 2022. Each color at the top is representing a different financial industry. So you'll see in 2008, fixed income did the best. Obviously, if you guys remember 2008, maybe not, that's when the financial crisis hit. That was when real estate went pretty much bust. So, and then you'll notice like a lot of these blue ones are REITs, that's real estate investment trusts. You'll kind of notice that they're usually at the top, but in 2008, real estate was totally down 37% in 2008. So basically you just want to be in almost all of these different sectors because we never know what's going to do the best that year or what's going to perform the worst. So asset allocation are these white boxes, and this is just pretty much, being in a mix of everything. So by not being in, like, for example, just real estate, like we can stomach the losses. So if you're in asset allocation, it's pretty like right in the middle, up and down. And versus if you were in real estate, like you can be up crazy one year and then down and then up. Or, I mean, it could be one of the worst performing. 2022 is the worst performing in 2020. So anyways, if you could stomach big, heavy ups and downs, then maybe you can handle real estate, but I definitely recommend being in a diversified portfolio, being in different areas of the market. This is also cool, having $100 investment. I think you guys should be aware of this. So if you have $100 investment and it goes down 5%, you would be at $95. To get actually back up to your $100 investment, it's not just a 5% increase again. You actually have to make more than that. So 5.27% increase to get you back to 100. And it's more apparent when we look over here, like let's say the 30%. So if your $100 investment drops 30%, you would be at $70. And if you wanted to get back to your $100 investment, you would actually have to make 42.86% just to get back up to your 100. So by me telling you this, you want to try to not lose money. So that's why we don't want to be in such high highs and such low lows, but we kind of bobble right into the middle. We're not so up and so down. I also really like this slide, time diversification and the volatility of returns. This slide was taken from JP Morgan Asset Management. And in a one-year time period, the stock market could be up 47% or down 39%. So stock market's just like stocks. These are companies that you would have a piece of the pie, so shares. These are bonds. So these are like fixed income assets, debt instruments. So in 1 year, bonds could be up 43% or down -13. And then the gray one is a 50-50, half stocks, half bonds, up 33% or down 15%. And that's just in a 1 year time frame. But when we look further on down the road, even like here at the 5-year rolling averages, if you're in there for 5 years, your stock portfolio investment could be up 28% or down -3. And then same with bonds, up 23% or down -2. And then it's actually no negative for the 50-50. So I'm sharing this screen with you because I want you guys to be aware that if you were to put $100 into the stock market, and you're like, oh, I only have a 1-year time frame. Well, you could lose 39% of your money in 1 year. So that's why we want to have a long-term horizon. Because if you guys look right here, this 20-year, there's actually no negatives at all. So like when you guys are saving for retirement and you're investing into your 401k or your Roth or your IRA, whatever it is, like that's a long-term time horizon. And even if you see the stock market coming down 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever it is, 10% even, like these are a long-term play, and over a long period of time, the market will come back. Alrighty, so if you guys have seen this, so if you guys ever see this on the television or anywhere, the Dow, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, this is what it's talking about. So the Dow is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's composed of 30 blue chip US stocks. So blue chip stocks, think of big like dinosaur companies, like most likely not going anywhere. Think of McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, the big guys. And then the S&P 500 is the top 500 companies within the US. And the NASDAQ is the composite index is an index of more than 3,700 stocks. The technology sector accounts for just over half the index. So usually the NASDAQ is more volatile. That means it goes up a lot more and down a lot more than say the Dow or the S&P 500. And obviously tech stocks are a bit more risky than McDonald's or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or anything like that. So I also wanted to share with you guys like the different types of what we call ETFs, exchange traded funds, or even mutual funds. So you guys could buy any sort of investment, and you could go to like Fidelity, for example, open up a Fidelity brokerage account, and you could buy the S&P 500. So you can look at a list of all the different funds that they have to offer, and you'll read the titles. It'll say like a technology ETF. And then that's just like pretty much all the tech companies are in that ETF, and you can click on it, look at the top holdings within that ETF. And that's kind of like what you'll be invested in. And there's other ones, like if you wanted like a growth stock mutual fund, for example, it would be stock companies looking for growth. Or there's value companies, for example, like there's so an ETF or mutual fund is a basket of stocks. So if it, for example, was like the tech company I was just talking about, you would have like Amazon, Microsoft, things like that in this basket of stocks. So you're not just buying one stock, you're buying multiple in one. And then with like a value and then I was going to mention about value is you're buying a company that you think is not priced correctly. So you think it actually is worth more than it's currently priced at. So that would be considered a value stock. And you can have a basket of stocks with value companies in them. So there's lists. So you can open up a brokerage account, like I said, at Fidelity. You can go to Vanguard, you can go to Schwab, and you guys can do it all yourself, even Robinhood. But look at the returns, the performance, how well it's done compared to its benchmark. A lot of companies will benchmark to the S&P 500, and sometimes the benchmark or the S&P 500 will actually do better than the ETF that they are, or mutual fund that they are trying to beat or outperform. You'll also want to look at expense ratios to see like what the underlying cost is to be invested in these different companies. So I really like this, calling in the experts. So between 2001 and 2004, advisors who demonstrated the highest scores in integrity and client service orientation, concern for quality and order, teamwork, and self-confidence delivered a mean return of 24.7% for their client's portfolio, compared to a mean return of 14.3% by the S&P during that same time period. So by having a good financial advisor and you call and say, hey, I want to sell out of the market because you're scared, or like I said, your emotional brain is getting triggered. By having a really good financial advisor, they can help you by not losing money. So you're pretty much paying them to be your coach to say, hey, now's not the right time, or hey, the economy is still strong, even though people are saying that a recession's coming. Like, this could be the easiest recession that we've ever been through because we're so prepared for it. So just wanted you guys to be aware of that. Alrighty, so debt education, dealing with investors, dealing with creditors. If any of you guys are dealing right now with, an old bill and the creditors are calling or they're sending you bills, I want you guys to call them and just let them know the situation. Like, hey, I'm out of a job right now. I can't pay it, but when I can, I will. The more that you can communicate with them, the better that it will be. And even if it's not into collections yet, you can even call, for example, if you have a Chase credit card and you're behind or you haven't paid it or something, like give them a call and just kind of let them know. If someone is bothering you, know that you can go to they have the Fair Debt Collections Practice Act. So no one should be like calling you, saying bad things to you. Like that could be like a lawsuit. So no one should be unfair or saying anything negative to you. So I just want you to be aware of that. And if anyone on here is in a situation where they like can't pay their credit cards or things like that, the top 4 things that you need to focus on are your 4 walls. That's food, shelter, transportation, and clothing. We probably already all have clothes here, but anyway, you want to make sure that you have shelter, your transportation to like get to work so you can make money or whatever it is, and food. So those are your top 4 things to take care of them as your priority. So there are 2 different types of bankruptcies. There's Chapter 7, which is a full liquidation. And then there's Chapter 13, which is individual debt adjustment. So both of these bankruptcies cost money. Chapter 7 costs anywhere from up to $1,500. Chapter 13 costs anywhere up to $5,000. And Chapter 7 is really for someone who's kind of given up hope. They really don't feel like they could do it anymore. So they completely liquidate everything. So they completely liquidate all of the consumer's assets to pay the creditors. Versus Chapter 13 is you're going to pay it back, but you're going to submit something where you're going to pay back a certain dollar amount for the next like 3 years. And the government decides this, or not the government, but a trustee will make financial decisions for you. So like when you file, someone's going to tell you what to do. So you're kind of really limited on what you can and can't do, unfortunately. So unsecured debt is considered credit card debt, personal loans, personal lines of credit, and secured debt is a mortgage, car loan, or a truck loan. So secured debt is anything that like actually has value. So if you have a mortgage, it's obviously secured by or has collateral attached to it. So a mortgage is secured by a home. A car loan, obviously you have the car that you can still take. So under Chapter 13, it's unsecured debt is paid as a percentage of the balance as determined by the court, and secured debt can sometimes be adjusted to reflect the actual value of the security. So think of in like 2008, 2009, when people were losing their homes, people were doing like foreclosures and things like that. Like sometimes you can reassess the value of the house in Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So, and also in Chapter 7 as well, a debtor may reaffirm a secured debt and keep the security, for example, a car loan. So anyways, I just kind of want you guys to be aware of these different types of bankruptcies, God forbid, or if anyone's dealing with it, that these are some options out there that you have, and also the costs. People that are filing bankruptcy sometimes don't even have the money to do it. So want you to be aware of the cost alongside of that. Debt that can't be wiped away under bankruptcy, any debt owed to the IRS, criminal restitutions and fines, liabilities for a DUI, and student loans. I know that there's talk that they might pay some of it off, but if you are filing for bankruptcy, student loans would not be included in that. Other things to know, it can affect what jobs you apply for example, banking and investing. You may not be able to get a job if you do file bankruptcy. And then with military, it could affect your security clearance. So talk to your commanding officer if you are thinking about any of these types, if you're thinking of bankruptcy. Alrighty, so budgeting. If anyone needs help with budgeting, this is what I tell all my clients to do, is to look back 3 months. Look at your credit card statements, look at your bank accounts. You turn down the dollar amount that you spend in each category. For example, for food and restaurant, usually that's like one of our biggest expenses, and that we are constantly putting it on the card or charging it or whatever. So go back for the last 3 months and look at how much you spent on groceries. Write down every single line item. So like Trader Joe's or Sprouts or Ralph's, whatever it is. Okay, you spent $50 or $100 or $200, however big your family is, and write down, in February 2nd, I spent $50. February 21, I spent $50, and like put that all in one row for food, total it up at the bottom for that month. Same with like restaurants, for example. In February, decide, okay, I spent $20 at Chipotle or another $20 at Chick-fil-A, and write them all down into the category, total it up. Do that for 3 months. So January, February, and March. And that will give you a good idea of how much you're spending, and then you can average it out if you want. Or maybe you're overspending in that area and you're like, you know what, I don't want to spend that much money. So then try to reduce it as best you can for your spending plan going forward. These are budgeting guidelines. So this is like the recommendation. So charitable gifts, probably if you give money to any charity or whatnot, or church, tithing could be around 10 to 15%. Savings should be around 10 to 15%. Housing should be no more than 35%. Try to get it as close to 25% as possible. Especially if you're renting, like don't spend so much money on rent so you can save money to hopefully buy a home in the future. Utilities around 5 to 10, and so on and so forth. So these are just like a nice guideline. And then you could put together your spending plan. So based upon what you spent in the last 3 months, you can kind of maybe compare it to the recommended amount. And then, or if you don't even want to look back 3 months, you're more forward looking, I don't want to look back at the past, these would be the recommended targets for like, so you would take your income. So if you made $100,000 a year, for example, 10%, just for here, 10% of savings would be, I think it's $10,000 would go in this like targeted amount. And then I don't know if I put on here yet, but if anyone's dealing with debt, list all your debts out, smallest to largest, the minimum payment that you have to pay on it, and the outstanding balance. And you could do what's called the snowball method, just paying off the smallest one first. That's a big win. Pay it off as quickly as possible. So pay the minimums on all of them, and then just try to knock out the debt that is the least amount and pay that off. Then take that minimum payment, roll it over to the next one. If that's like a $35 minimum payment, your next one's like another $30 minimum payment, just roll it into that. So you'd be paying $65 minimum for the second largest debt once the first one was paid off. So we kind of already talked about the emergency fund already. So 3 months of expenses if you're married, 6 months if single, and then 9 to 12 if you have irregular income, business owner, salesperson, mortgage guy, anything like that. I really like the Every Dollar Budgeting app by Dave Ramsey. I like it because I paid the subscription to have my credit card and my bank accounts linked. So all my transactions are fed into there, and then I just drag and drop the item. So if I went to a restaurant, for example, I would drag and drop what I spent at the restaurant into the restaurant category. If I went grocery shopping, I'd drop it into the grocery category. And so it's constantly tracking. I mean, I can go back the last few years and see, okay, how much did I spend here? Or go back for the whole year, how much did I spend? So it's really nice to like keep track of everything. And then recently I just heard, which makes sense, that people that are in debt or dealing with like some financial stress, they actually don't look at their bills, or they're not tracking or anything, but the truth will set you free. So just get it down on paper, make a plan, get it all out there, and then create a plan to get, especially out of like credit card debt, make a plan, get out, and focus on like your budgeting. And if you tend to overspend, use cash and use envelopes, because when you actually have cash in your hand, it's a feeling. You're actually losing something. Versus your credit card, you don't feel anything. And that's usually why we actually overspend when we use our credit cards. And that is it.
Oh, I was going to say, I have a quick question in terms of the 3-month emergency spending.
Yeah.
For any of our upcoming graduates who are starting their first job, what is your best suggestion for them really upping their savings to get to that 3-month or 6-month emergency fund?
Yeah, so whatever your emergency fund, so whatever your expenses are for the month, so let's say $2,000 is your total expenses. I don't know if where you guys are at. Maybe it costs way more money than that. Let's say your total expenses are like 5,000, for example. You're going to need, if you're single, 6 months. So that's 30,000 if I did the math correctly in my head that you need. Well, you're most likely not going to be able to come up with $30,000 quickly, in like 1 month. So take that 30,000 and maybe can you do it over 12 months, 24 months, and just start saving as best that you can. And if it's really going to take that long, I do recommend that you invest a little bit, save a little bit, because I mean, that 24 months is a long time. So don't take too long to start investing, because the sooner you start, the more money you'll have in the end. I hope that answered that person's question. Yeah, are there any other questions? That was my end of my presentation.
Yeah, we did have another one specifically talking about Robinhood. Obviously, they were in the news about having some questions, some concerns from investors. Do you know if that is still the case or if they've gotten any better? And if you don't know, totally fine. Just figured I'd ask that question.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up on the whole Robinhood thing. I have heard things out there, but it's a free platform. So, and I think a lot of them they want you to buy stocks. So, I mean, I like Acorns. Acorns does the investing for you, and they get to pick the ETFs. Yeah, and I think Robinhood is mainly just purchasing stocks.
Perfect. And then we do have a question, and it's up to you, Nycole, about if they'd be able to receive a copy of the slides. I don't know if that's something they can send, and I can send along with the other document that you put together that answers everyone's questions that were submitted ahead of time.
Yeah, I would love to share that.
Perfect. Then great. The slides will be coming once we have completed the presentation. I'll send out the recording for everyone who's registered as well as everyone who has attended, along with that document so that you have all of the information that you might need. Looks like we got another question.
Okay.
Do you have an HYSA recommendation?
Oh gosh, the HYSA. Yeah, that's a high yield savings account. This is like topic of conversation right now. Like I feel like it's all over social media. If you guys have extra cash, you guys are young, get invested in the stock market. Even if you guys are making like 4 to, I guess I heard recently you could find like 8% high yield savings accounts. You can actually like Google this. So high yield savings accounts, a bunch will pop up. So like Goldman Sachs, I think, has one. If this is the same person asked this question before, it's actually going to be in the Q&A that's going to be sent out. There's a few lists in there. I think Synchrony Bank's another one. But you guys, if inflation is around like 8%, 6%, and you guys are making 4% in your high yield savings account, you're losing money. You're losing that 2% or whatever it is. So this high yield savings account is just like for your cash that's sitting in your bank for your emergency fund. That's fine. But anything above and beyond that, get invested. I wonder if I can see the right here. Is Robinhood doing better now? Robinhood is more trading, gambling, not so much investing. Oh, yeah. Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Thank you. Pretty regular return free withdrawals. Awesome. Good job, Laura.
I think those are all of the questions that we have. I know that we had a ton of submitted questions as well, that Nycole has put together a wonderful document that details and answers all of those questions. So if we don't have any more submitted in the Q&A, then we can go ahead and wrap up. I don't know if you have any other tips or tricks that you want to share before we sign off for the day.
I think we covered a lot.
We did.
I don't want to add any more to you guys. So thank you so much for coming on this call and listening to me. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Thanks for joining on a Friday.
Yes, and thanks again, Nycole, for being here and sharing your wisdom with everyone. I know I learned a lot of that really great basics, especially in the psychology behind making some financial decisions. Definitely helped inform some of those impulse purchases that I'm making for sure. So I think that was so helpful for me, and I'm sure so helpful for any of our sisters. Nycole is on our Women in Wisdom platform, so womeninwisdom.org, and I know in the document that I'll be sharing out, she also includes all of her contact information. So if any of y'all have any specific questions or anything, or if you just want to connect more with Nycole, those are great options. Again, on the platform, connecting her with her there, or any of the contact information that you'll get via email, hopefully in the next couple hours soon. So again, thank you so much, Nycole. We appreciate it. And thank you to all of our attendees and anyone watching the recording for taking part. We appreciate y'all for being here.
Thank you.